and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes, any corrections, additions? I'll move them. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Okay. Resolution 1. Mobility management, EP1. A resolution creating one position in the Office of Mobility Management. Motion to discuss.
Move it.
Second. Okay, well, mobility management is growing as we had hoped it to do, and it is, as we instructed, that they were going to be taking more responsibility of transportation in to make it more financially efficient as well as for our residents. Saying that, we've reached the point where they need to have another person in there basically for dispatch, only costing us $27,000, and a lot of this is covered by DOT or CARES Act funds. So, any questions? Frank?
I looked at this, and you know that I've always supported mobility management. Oh, it's just that it's adding more levels in the department. I've got to take a long, hard look at it. Okay, and it says that, I know that it says in the directions that if the grant runs out, then unless it's passed by the legislature, the job will end. Okay, but I have seen one of those happen. Okay, and I'm not really too hesitant, but when it runs out, I won't be here. Okay, but for this time, I'm just a little hesitant on it. I'm not saying no right now, but I'm not totally sold on it yet. And I understand why they need it. That's not the case. It's just that always, when you get more added responsibilities to your job, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should hire somebody to take on those responsibilities. At some point in time, we're going to have to start saying to people, you know what? You get more responsibilities. I'm sorry, but you got to buckle up and pull up on your bootstraps and take it on. Okay.
Only thing I could say is that there's only 8 hours in a day, and it's just not enough stuff that's coming in that they can't handle it all. Bill, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, just for Legislator Castillo's and everybody's information for completing inventory of all grant-funded positions. And assuming my schedule doesn't get interrupted this week, I'll give that report to F&P, so legislators will have a list of all grant-funded positions, and then they expire.
Thank you.
That's great information.
Are we preparing and anticipating for reduction in funds in general across the board?
That's the second thing I'm doing for F&P is we're doing an analysis of any vulnerabilities we have with federal funding. So, and that'll be part of my monthly report that all legislators get, not just F&P.
Senator Ryan called me and said that it's going to be a significant reduction.
What areas did he mention?
I need to meet with him, but he said it's a little staggering right now.
What I'm preparing is a worst case scenario. Of course, as you watch the news, it's all fluid. Something gets cut, then there's court challenges, so it's back and forth a lot. I think the most, what we got to look at right now is what federal funding we have budgeted in this latest cut that's pulling back COVID money, the last 6 months of it, and see how that affects. And I have the department heads working on that.
Tim?
Yeah, if I could speak just a little to this specific one. The way this program works is, if you remember, this is a program that we had outsourced, that we had been paying a substantial amount of money. We only had one vendor to offer to do this. We had asked through the Transportation Advisory Committee if there was a way that it could be done in-house to save a substantial amount of funds. And this was a $300,000 or $400,000 program that we were outsourcing. Heather was able to bring it in-house and take it on with her current responsibilities, handling the dispatch. When those phone calls come in, her and Kristen are doing that currently. But the demand for it, and again, this is that, if you remember, this is that Rise to Recovery program. This is the one that keeps people attending the services they need, either workforce related or specifically for therapy. And so this program has been able to continue. it is a huge strain on them, and they've been working substantial extra hours. The great news about the funding through our mobility management is 90% of that is funded through New York State DOT. Those funds we've never seen an issue with those continuing. That transportation funds never seems to be under attack by any agency that we've talked about. But the local share, which is 10%, is coming from our federal CARES Act funding. And we have a substantial amount of money that was earmarked for us years ago, really through the COVID time, federally to be used for these specific issues. And we can't use those monies unless we can go to the state and say, here's what we're looking to do with it. Is it okay? And they've approved the spend down of those funds for the local share of this project. So it's a great point. It is something we need to be aware of is grant funded positions. And each year we need to keep an eye on those. And I know the Administrator does a great job with that. But specifically, these funds could potentially be drawn back by the federal government, and ultimately we are hoping to utilize them to service our community. And this is a program that, if we have seen, we're averaging almost 700 rides a month for this program. So again, I understand where you're coming from, but I just want to show this specific one just so everyone understands where those funds are coming from.
Any other questions? Roy?
Well, I just think this continues us on the right path of developing this. We knew from the beginning this was going to be challenging, and Heather has not only been up to the task, she has improved our ability to connect to people and move them around the county in ways that I think we didn't even expect. And this is going to continue that process. She's been a godsend for how well we can improve and how quickly we can improve our transportation in the county.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. EP2.
Okay, I'm gonna introduce EP2, resolution appointing members to the Oswego County Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors. And those folks would be Linda Lockwood, whose term would expire in December 2025, Mary Ellen Hesbrough, term to expire December 31st, 2025, and Thomas Bonofsky, term to expire in 2027. Are there any questions?
How do you find
Can
out?
we move it for discussion?
I was gonna say, yeah, let's get a first to move to second, anybody?
Second.
Good night. I can do it.
You didn't how do you become aware of getting on the board, and how come we're never asked to be on anything?
I'm not
So curious.
Well, I believe Joe
Yeah,
is the one that, heads it up, right?
right, well, he's,
Oh, Chevrolet.
yes, he's the director there, but it's Jim Weatherup, the chairman, is the one that's generally,
The members.
but if there's, I guess, I know we've had lists of boards.
I haven't received any.
The clerk of the legislature maintains the lists of advisory boards and the expiration dates of all members.
You know, this isn't an advisory board, it's a district.
Well, district.
The district board is
any
appointed by the
appointments
legislature.
Any
Yeah.
appointments by the legislature, the clerk of the legislature maintains that inventory. And,
That list gets shared,
it's available public record here.
just to ask for it.
Anything that, you want to be on a board, Marie, I
was gonna say, if you have interest in it, talk to the chairman about what you'd like to serve on.
because, I mean, trust me, there's a lot of different boards, and I know they look for people at all times, so check to see the boards that are there. If there is something, talk to Jim and see where we're at. Frank?
I know I don't have a vote in here, but I will not be voting in favor of this one. Only the basic fact that, like I said, I've said it many times, that all these boards and all these appointments, you have no member of the minority caucus on those boards, even being asked to be on those boards. Okay? Now, I know you're saying Jim Weatherup is the one that does it, but it still comes down to the fact that there should be always in every board, okay, a member of the majority caucus and a member of the minority caucus on those boards. Okay?
Okay, well, I appreciate your perspective on it, but I would have to disagree, because I think if you bring something to the board because you have expertise
Well-
in the area, like Mary Ellen does,
Yeah, Linda Lockwood
her
does,
background,
Linda Lockwood
and
knows
Linda
a lot
does.
about soil and water. I know
That's right.
what about soil and water she does.
So they're really good choices for this board.
That's your opinion.
She's been serving a long time.
Yeah.
There's so many boards. You guys would be on like, how many boards? There's gotta be like 30 different boards, so each of you would be on 15 boards if you wanted to have
It's
a
not
member of
feasible.
each. It's not feasible.
You're trying to throw the ball out there, and the point is,
Have you asked
you
to
get
be on a
asked.
board? Have
No.
you asked?
At every meeting, you bring these up, I ask. I say, why isn't a member of the minority caucus on these boards?
No, I meant
So-
for a specific
No.
board. Have you actually gone to Jim and says, Jim, let me see the list, I'm interested in this.
No.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
You're throwing it back, but it's okay. Like I said,
Right.
I don't want to take up any more of your time here, but I'll argue it on the floor.
Okay.
Okay?
How many of these are returning? They're all three,
All
right?
three are returning.
Yeah, so
They have-
that's why, because they were willing to serve and they've been serving.
It's not a new appointment.
Any other questions before we call for a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
With one abstention, correct?
One abstention.
One abstention. Okay, EP3. Resolution to increase state aid and to decrease local share in capital project number B0821 County Route 5 seawall replacement from unspent funds and a ready capital project number 0221 site trail repair. Motion to
Move it.
discuss.
Second.
Second. Okay, well, as it says, this is a great opportunity that we've had ready funds, and ready funds on a certain project were unable to complete because of environmental or logistics, and so there's money left over. And so the state has said that we could put that money that's left over and put it towards another project, basically the shoreline deterioration, which, as we all know, we had a lot of high wind damage done. And the thing is that particular project started out at 28,000 local share, and it increased because of COVID funds and everything to 238,000. But now that we're able to take the funds from the other ready project that was unable to be done, the local share goes from 238 down to 38. This is great news. Tim, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, and Veronica's here too. Veronica did a ton of work. I want to thank her so much for all of these. There's been, for years, we've had 5 or 6 projects. There's been a lot of administrative work. So again, Veronica spent hours and hours putting this together. And Veronica, correct me if there's anything logistically I'm wrong, but generally speaking, we got a bunch of money from the state for the high waters from 2017 and 2019. 3 or 4 of the 5 projects have been completed. The one project that was not able to be done because of some DEC issues with moving a bridge. And so ultimately, thankfully, the state, instead of collecting money back, allowed us to put forward another proposal. We had a proposal down by Rudy's, the first point, County Route 89 there. That section has drastically eroded. And if any of you went down there around 17 and 19 with the high waters, that entire County Route 89 was underwater. And ultimately, all of the shoreline has washed right out to the lake. So thankfully, the state has allowed us to move everything that's kind of clean up from the other 4 projects, as well as the one that didn't go forward. We had already set the local share aside in the capital project, and so ultimately this resolution as well, the next one coming, kind of help clean all that up logistically so that we can move forward with the project to restore that shoreline. Again, it's about $2.5 million worth of grant monies, and interesting, the way it's going to work is we're going to start kind of at the end of Burke's Point, it's called. And wherever the funds allow us, we'll go as far down the break wall to restore it. We fully expect to be able to restore the substantially damaged areas. We're hoping to be also to restore the sections kind of closer to Rudy's. It is all on it's in our right of way, but it is privately owned property. Those are landowners' properties, and so we're working with them with rights of way, similar to we do with the other ready projects, to get all that put together. So we're hoping to go out to bid in the summer and start the project potentially this fall, but most likely it'll be early next year.
Tim, you're going in front of private residences. When I did my seawall, it was a pretty extensive project with an engineer, considerable funds personally invested based on income in front of valuable property. So now we're doing this in front of residents for free.
Well, yes, and typically these ready funds were not allowed to be used on private property. That was actually an important piece of it. Because county is a county road and it has our infrastructure there, we are about 6 inches at one spot from losing our road. And so because it's threatening the county road,
Tim, I gotta get it straight though.
Yep.
89, we go over the bridge on the wetland, okay? Now, are you talking before that, like Ron Palm's house area? And after that, are you talking adjacent to Rudy's as you go out?
yes, and so it's going to be the section.
Actual Bird's Point is a private residence.
Yeah, so we're not going to go all the way to Bird's Point. We'll go on the County Route 89 on the north side of our right-of-way. If you kind of, well, now there's a bit of a cliff there. There used to be probably 20 feet of lawn there for each of these residents. That has eroded so far back now that it's actually, like I said, about 6 inches from the guardrail of County Route 89. So it's just the section from Rudy's on the north side.
But
not on Rudy's property.
Rudy's would have to, do their own.
Yeah, this is not Rudy's property. I'll be very clear. There's
lake
4
level
homeowners.
anyway.
Right, there's 4 homeowners that we've been working with.
So the house on the point?
No, it's actually farther to the east. So if you kind of go from Rudy's and you're thinking of the
What are the residents' names?
I have them written down. I don't know all of their names. There's 4 of them though. But it is not
So-
it is
So
not.
we're gonna use these funds to go in front of private residences.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that.
Well, it's similar to what we did with some of the sewer projects there. We still operate in homeowners' land for a municipal purpose.
Well, I understand with
Okay.
sewer. I totally understand with sewer. But this is gonna take valuable property, make it even more valuable. And all of us with lakefront, it was our burden
Mhm.
to deal with it.
That's a fair point. And if we didn't have our municipal water there, we didn't have the new sewer lines they just put in, and we didn't have our road there, we wouldn't even be allowed to have this project.
Is this legal, Rich?
It's to protect our county highway. That's what the project, as I
So
understand it, is.
why aren't we
Because the
just
highway is-
going in front of the highway?
The highway is typically county right-of-way on private property. The owners own to the center line. Here, I believe they own on both sides. We have a right-of-way through that. I've not seen the engineering maps.
How many linear feet are we talking?
It depends on what the costs are when we put it out. The idea is they give us a per foot cost in the estimate, and we still have not had the original.
This will have to be permitted by Corps of Engineers and DEC.
I understand the roadway you're talking about, exiting Rudy's area and heading out past. Now then the residents start to bump out.
Mhm.
Are you going to just do where the highway is? Because the highway varies into the
That's
wetlands
correct.
after that.
We're only going to do the section of the highway. I wish I had the names up. I
Because
remember
the houses are on the other side of the road.
we're not doing those. So this is only on the,
No.
is only on the one on this side. So the homes are on the south side of the road. The areas we are addressing are going to be on the north side of the road.
The lake is undermining the integrity of the highway.
So you're only doing the strip near the highway.
Between the highway and the lake, yes.
And will you include Bert's Point bump out in front of a resident?
No, so the issue right now is that there's a seawall already there that has completely eroded and really collapsed in on itself. The work is going to be to reestablish that seawall. Not necessarily, we're not going in the water. This will be purely on the land side of it, but using, this is a little outside my engineering world, but using rocks and whatever to.
I know what you mean, I've already done it.
Yep.
Will it go in front of a private residence directly on lakefront?
It will be between the road and the lake. The homes are on the other side.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So it's
Yes.
just going to be protecting our road from the
It's
lake.
just on the north side,
Yes, that's
not
correct.
in front of
No, that's
Well,
correct.
private residence.
I don't know if there are catch basins or whatever for culverts on the other side that would need to go under the road. We've not seen the engineering, but we have right of way. The present
Well, you've got a blue line. On the.
Well, it's not the canal. We've got a easement, a right of way.
I want
right
to
there.
see it, Tim.
And then Tim said there's a water district infrastructure there as well as sewer lines.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Now, the sewer lines are on the south side, so the hope is that they are safe. There are some on the other side, but they should not be threatened. If you get a chance, swing down there. I mean, I was shocked when I went down there this fall to see just how close. And ultimately, according to Sean, and I believe Phil said the same, if we didn't have these funds, we would have to, from taxpayer funds, deal with this at some point. That lake is coming, and we really do need to shore it up. So the state was very much in favor of this project.
Okay. 'Cause I just don't want it in front of private residences.
Understood.
Well,
Do we know what kind of containment we're gonna use there? Are they gonna be like sheets, or gonna be crushed rock, what are they
It
gonna?
won't be sheets. I believe it's going to be, it's something they're still working on. We don't have any of the engineering. We had to get these funds moved over so we can spend them. We're going to be putting out to bid the engineering design work of that here at some time, and really essentially as soon as we get the authorization from
So
this.
you know for a fact it's not sheet.
I do know it's not sheets. They're at it. I mean, there's not funding for sheets, so. I mean, you're
Sheets
talking
are-
about piling.
Good.
Well, my parents had a lake camp up in
Expensive.
Derby Hill, and we put like, I don't know how many loads of plunder in front of it, and it just get carried up with all the sheets would be the way to go.
Well, I don't know, we went to the permafrost and
Okay.
it was engineered and it really was a great job.
Did you do sheets or did you do?
No, we did huge rock, but all the way to the permafrost
Mhm.
and stacked with huge pieces of equipment.
And anyone who'd like to be involved in the process, just let me know. I'd be happy to work with you and keep you in the loop as well.
Okay, this is a great discussion, but do know that what we're voting on right now is the first resolution, and it has nothing to do with all of the shoring up of the road. That's the next resolution. So just be aware that we are voting on EP3, which just means that we're taking money from one project that is done and it's got extra and putting it on another. So any other questions about EP3? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, EP4. A resolution creating capital project number 0325, County Route 89 shoreline stabilization and transferring funds from unspent 2021 ready capital project. Motion to discuss.
Move it.
Second. This is the one that we thoroughly discussed already, but is there any other comments? This is the one about where Rudy's and the road is coming in, but we're only going to be spending between the road and the lake, not in front of people's houses. Any other discussion? Questions? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, EP5. Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Department of Workforce Development, separation of part-time wage funds.
This is simply separating the, for accounting and monitoring purposes, part-time wage funds between, because there's different revenue sources for different programs that these people work in, so we have to track them separately.
Motion to discuss?
Move it.
Second. Any comments, any questions from Phil describing the difference there? What?
Why wasn't it done at budget time?
I think we received, Rachel received some instructions from the state, on how these needed to be audited. Yeah.
Instructions that they wanted to separate it,
Yeah.
in the budget. Because they were keeping it in a spreadsheet, but they wanted to see it in the budget.
Yeah, the directive of the funding source wants them separate in our budget.
It seems this isn't the first time that we've gotten like,
Yeah, I know.
all of a sudden we get the grants through and everything is fine, and we set up all of the accounts and the lines, and then suddenly the state said, oh, wait a minute, you have to separate. This is like the second or third time, as I recall. Yeah, they just come in with some new rules and work for us to do it.
It has to do with the funding sources and having split workforce out on its own from the stuff that happens at DSS.
Yeah.
So there's still some employments, things that happen at DSS and that. We're just cleaning up the accounting.
Yeah, and so they like to be transparent, so they're instructing us. All those in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, okay, passes. EP6, resolution requesting amendment to New York State Law, Section 1202-H concerning Oswego County occupancy tax. Motion to discuss.
Move it.
Second. Marie, I see you've got a question
Well,
before we
I
even start.
want a better explanation. We hired someone to monitor occupancy tax, okay, which I know that's probably unrelated. I just think we should have done a permit. But this is, the state is telling us, less than 6 units?
The county's ability to impose a tax is solely dependent on what the state allows us to do. That's true for sales tax, occupancy tax, property tax. So the state is the sovereign, tells the municipalities what they can do. 1202H was adopted back in, I think, '88, and it excluded 6 or fewer units. Therefore, for hotel occupancy tax or motel, other types of tax, we have not been able to collect on 6 or fewer units. There was also something called the bungalow exemption from sales tax. Sales tax, separate from occupancy tax. People check into a hotel, the room is taxable for occupancy tax generally and sales tax. But if they get meals or go to the sports club or whatever, that's sales tax. That's not, the occupancy tax isn't collected on that. So the state just did a chapter amendment. They passed a short-term rental registry local law, and then did a chapter amendment which took that out of Department of State and moved it back to localities. I've got a draft of local law I'm working on. I just wanted to share that. But we'll be able to pick up sales and occupancy on short-term rentals, but it leaves a gap of units that are not short-term rentals, that are not subject to occupancy tax, that we're still not picking up. The additional amendment is on the disposition of the funds. It's requesting an amendment that they generally can be used for tourism and convention-related purposes. This amendment seeks to allow that those funds, which there's an account in Tim's department, after the treasurer takes administrative expenses, be used also for tourism-related capital improvements. So if you wanted to improve a park, or you wanted to put in a fishing access area or something like that, those funds could be used to assist or supplement those types of improvements.
Rich, they mentioned the bungalow. I mean, will this affect like Verbo or any of those?
Verbo and Airbnb is all under the short-term rental registry, and we've drafted a local law on that. I don't think it will be ready to be set for a hearing on the 10th, but the next committee meeting you should be seeing this. And
but you'll have to register if you're a Verbo.
the registration is separate from the imposition of the tax. Tax is under our local law, and we want to clarify that because it's not on the equities fair to have still a gap. And our county is unique from other counties. Some counties have 25 or fewer excluded. Some counties have occupancy tax on campgrounds. Each county seems to be a hodgepodge on what the occupancy tax authorizing legislation allows. There's actually two 1202Hs. One is in another county and one is Oswego. The whole section is a mess, but what we want to do is request that state law be amended so we can amend our local law, clean it up, and have 1 to whatever number of units that are engaged in this space subject to our occupancy tax. Sales tax is automatic. That's through the state. We don't collect that. The state does. It remits it back to the county, where the county has the ability to impose a sales tax outside the city of Oswego. Occupancy tax is paid directly to the treasurer.
But Rich, doesn't it, by having to purchase a permit or a whatever, doesn't it kind of take care of itself by?
Right now, we don't have short-term rental permits. We have what's called a certificate of authority that allows, we require those subject to a local law for occupancy tax to apply and receive a certificate of authority. They have to file quarterly returns with the treasurer's office. They go out of business. They surrender that. If a hotel is sold, they technically need the permission of the county to true up the occupancy tax collections to make sure that we're receiving 100 cents on the dollar. The short-term rental permits, that's in the works. We have to adopt that this year or opt out. And our recommendation would be that we adopt a short-term rental registry.
I'm all for it. I said it before, you wouldn't even need an employee to manage it. They have to buy the registration.
But the tax is different than the registry. The registry requires various things, including floor plans, proof of fire extinguishers, proof of codes, requiring
fire departments know what to do.
So that's a separate discussion. This is on the occupancy tax only.
Roy?
All of the major websites that do the short-term rentals have been willing to collect the tax for us for many years. So this is language that we've been trying to get the state to finish and carry. This is just cleaning up the language to make it work. So they would be willing, that we won't need, whether the registry's there or not, if you get something through Airbnb or VRBO, and it's in New York, and it's in Oswego County, and we have this language in place that we'd be able to get paid regardless of
Directly.
any registry. Yes.
Yeah, the hotels have been really at a disadvantage because they have to have occupancy tax and pass it on to their, anybody coming. And so, but if all of a sudden all of these Airbnbs come up and there's no tax collected by them. So this is something we've been trying to do for years.
Well, and
Finally, it's home rule kind of.
the tourism, money that we collect and spend to promote the county, these people are benefiting from it by having, a lakefront or, riverfront Airbnb, and we're advertising for them to come here, and they don't have to pay that tax. So it's sort of an unfair advantage, and this
Leveling the
levels
playing
the playing field, and it's something we've been trying to do literally since 2017.
I think it's very good. Any other?
One
Yes.
last question. Why do we even have this in here? It's all zeros.
I know.
Yeah, so there was a mistake in Munis when the report came out on Friday. I actually have one, and you grab it, and it has the actual amounts in it.
It was a mistake. It was in another packet as well. I know the zeros.
Is yours zero?
Yeah, they all are. It's not just hit or miss. Yeah. And I know yesterday in public safety, they handed out all, they have that. Yeah. No, we haven't yet. So any other questions on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Anybody opposed? No? Pass. Okay, let's move right on then to. What do we have first? Who's gonna play first? Operation Oswego County update.
Sure. Several for you today. So hopefully everybody received our last newsletter. It went out mid-March. We have our next one's going to be going out in mid-April. We just assisted 3 projects with CFA applications that were due yesterday. That would, if they are funded, would represent several $1 million of investment in Oswego County. 2 of them were manufacturing related, 1 of them was childcare related. Also wanted to let you know that Operation Oswego County at our last board meeting on March 17th approved financing for design concepts in the town of Hastings. $150,000 to make renovations for a clean room and acquire equipment. That's going to support 9 new manufacturing jobs and retain 17 jobs on the site there. Great project. Other information, there is going to be a groundbreaking at the industrial park in Spruple for Daldrop. They've had actually equipment on site for several months, but because of how much winter we actually had this winter, they had to actually push back their official groundbreaking. So that will be actually on Thursday, April 3rd at 1 p.m. I believe everyone should have received an invitation for that event. But if not, please let me know. But that's going to be great. They're going to be building their new state-of-the-art manufacturing facility. Like I said, we're going to have an event there on Thursday for that. Switching gears, all pilot agreements have been invoiced as of March 1st, and the majority of those were all due yesterday, March 31st. At my next meeting, I will let you know if there are any pilots that are delayed or late. We just don't know at this point because some of them are sent on the 31st and we don't receive them until today or tomorrow in the mail. But nothing that I'm aware of right now that I would say are any that are going to be late to my knowledge. Also want to let you know, so I attended Site Selectors Guild event a few weeks ago. This is an event where all of the top site selection consultants and corporate real estate experts go to do best practices in economic development, to network, discuss projects they're working on, and to identify sites that are out there. So it was a good event for us. We had great representation from New York State at this event, good collaboration between our different partners in New York State, and made some very good new connections in terms of projects that are out there in manufacturing. There's quite a bit of data center projects that are floating out there that are looking for appropriate sites, as well as warehousing and logistics projects that are out on the horizon. So we're just trying to position ourselves as a a location that makes sense for those and bring those as many of those projects back to Oswego County as we can. So good event and something we will continue to do going forward, as well as attending other things like Select USA, which is a foreign direct investment event. That'll be in May. Semicon West will take place again this year, and that's going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll have a presence there as well. And just there may be some other events throughout the year that we attend, just based on the competitive assets and strengths of Oswego County and the types of businesses we should be trying to attract. I know Frank will probably ask it, so I'll get in front of it. So for the Nestle site, we just found out last week that there was funding through HCR that was applied for by CDM and Housing Visions related to that project. They found out it was not approved for this past round, so they are going to be resubmitting a little bit later this year with some additional information. So they've just, it's a very competitive process, and there were some questions that were unresolved when they had to submit their application last year, and all of those things have been addressed at this point, but just based on the timing, they didn't have some of that information, which did hurt their application. So I know Frank, you're probably going to ask on that one. So
I'm going to ask you. Go ahead, keep going. You got more.
No, that's it. That's.
So the CDM project, is that for the hotel, or is that for your building?
What do you mean?
The manufacturing plant, is it for the manufacturing?
So the Building 30
facility,
site is Building 30 is for manufacturing.
Okay.
That's the one that we're working with them on, yes.
And that's the one that they got denied on?
No, that was for the housing project. That was for the affordable housing.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's nothing that's been denied at this point related to the manufacturing project. It was just they were applying for financing. It's a special financing program through HCR related to the affordable housing. And like I said, it was not approved in the last round, so they're going to resubmit with the additional information that they have now. They just didn't have the time.
Okay. The only other question I have is that in the past week we've seen a story in the paper about the city of Oswego and the city of Fulton mayors very happy with the new state aid coming, increased state aid. Is any of that coupled with affordable housing and being housing friendly?
Not to my knowledge, Frank. I don't know enough about what they're getting specifically to the cities to know if there's any strings attached to that. I do know that the state has put a large emphasis and priority on pro-housing communities. Both the city of Oswego and the city of Fulton are pro-housing communities. I don't know if there's going to be any additional strings that are attached to that. I just couldn't tell you at this time. Into it?
No, I just wanted to know because it's a big story. Everybody's happy about it, but I mean, how happy are they going to be if they, it means that you're going to have 10 more, apartment complexes in your city because we're pro-housing now. And
yeah,
I get more state aid. If we do this, we're going to get more state aid. Well,
sure. Yeah, I don't know on that.
Problem with that. So.
Sure, and I understand that. So nothing on that. The only other thing I would just say, and Tim and I can both kind of tag team this, is that we're making strong progress on the housing study. That's the partnership between the county and the IDA. We anticipate that the final results of that will be released by the end of this month. But we're getting to the home stretch now in terms of final sort of drafts and making any tweaks to that. And it's been a good process and been great working with Tim and the rest of the steering committee that's on that. I know Mel was sitting on that steering committee, but it's been a good process. I think we're going to have a good product that comes out of it.
Austin, have you been able to utilize the tourism video that we had done with Dennis Quaid?
It's at the top of our website right now. We modified the top of our website to have a link go to that. We figure out how to get it to just automatically play. So we have a still shot from that, one of the best still shots from it, and then we have the link directly under it to take you to the YouTube video for that.
Perfect. I was just hoping that we were able to utilize that to the nth degree.
Yep.
That's really good.
And I would like to try to figure out a way to take that when we go to Semicon West this year and have that be part of our display.
Yeah. Hopefully that could be put into some type of a video that could loop and that you have the video.
How do we view it, Austin?
It's out on YouTube. I think the county website has it as well. I think if you look up Viewpoint in Oswego County, it'll take you to it. If you go to YouTube and just put that in, bring it in.
We can send out a link to the whole committee if that'd be helpful too.
Yeah. I'd send it to the entire ledger.
Yeah,
let everybody, remind them that it's all done. Yeah, but if you haven't already seen it, here's a link, to make sure that we do.
And it's great. It highlights some of the major accomplishments over sort of the last couple of years, as well as talks about where we're going, and it has a really good positive message and image for Oswego County. And it's got some budding movie stars.
You included.
I'd say Austin and Rachel have been given autographs.
No, our two stars.
Bill's
Three of the stars are here.
Bill's did the last.
Yeah.
It's a very tired looking county.
But it has other good representatives like Michael Zadat from Felix Scholler out in town of Richland, and others that are also, and Vinnie Liddell and others that are just telling a good story about Oswego County.
Do you also, I'm assuming, and I think I know that you've said it before, is that when you go to these places, you do make sure that they realize that we have the nuclear power and the lake, so we've got power and water.
Oh, and at this last event we were at, we were talking about how there's some momentum around the early site permit potential of a fourth nuclear power plant, which really perks a lot of these companies' interest, because there's not a lot of those right now that are being or have the potential to be developed across the U.S. So places that they're going to have more is definitely gets their interest to see about how they could participate or bring other projects to the table to take advantage of that power.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Austin? No. Rachel, workforce.
All right. I have lots of updates. So the first one here I'm going to pass around is the conclusion of our state fiscal audit of our WIOA funding. This did come back in February. We did have two findings. If we flip to the back of the first page, there was one finding about cost not allocated based on a relative benefit and a cost pool policy not followed. I will say, I think they pulled the one that was done incorrectly. But we fixed it, resolved it, moving forward, so that is all set. And then if we flip to the next page, finding number 2, contract renewal not approved by the board. So this was actually an oversight on my end, because every contract agreement we do has to have the timing of this legislature, but also the timing of the Workforce Development Board, which is only quarterly. So it was an oversight of our metrics learning contract, which I know went through here. And this was the renewal for the 2024 year, which we did do a new RFP and awarded a new contract that started January 1st, 2025 that did go to the Workforce Development Board at the end in our November 2024 meeting for renewal. So this was happening as we had that meeting going on for the next contract. So again, that was resolved. I didn't want to waste any more paper. We did get another letter mid-March that these were resolved and we are all set moving forward. So
we'll take your word.
Yeah, I have it if anybody wants it. But it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo that repeats everything in there and then just says resolved.
Thank you though for showing us. It's not like you're trying to hide. Oops. Yeah.
No, and actually I think that was really good, because this was our program year 23 that was audited. And in that time, we had 2 different accountants' work that was being audited, but then had a new accountant come on while this was happening. So myself and my admin assistant were basically going through all of this while our new accountant was learning. So overall, I think that was really good for all the turnover that was happening. But the next 2 I've got kind of go hand in hand. So I wanted to do this a little earlier, but here we are. After all of you investing into the Department of Workforce Development for 2024, I did want to put together what we were able to do throughout 2024. So the first chart that's coming around shows our funding in the first area that we get on a yearly basis, our main funding sources that are coming through between the ARPA investment and our WIOA allocation. We did get an extra $200,000 this past year of WIOA funding for training services, and then the New York Scion and OMH for our disability resource coordinator. But then showing the additional grant funding in the second table, totaling $3.8 million that throughout 2024 and into 2025, that funding working on special projects. And then the third table showing almost 1.5 million of grant applications that are still out there, that really, I and my team were able to have the time to apply for those. But then the next table is going down, showing all of the scholarships, on-the-job training, contract, work experience, and different services that we were able to provide individuals, totaling over 400 services for close to $1 million out to community members. And then having the job postings, hiring events, and pre-employment testing for the local businesses that have used our services, and the work keys assessments that we've been doing, and that's only been in the last couple months, with 50 tests going at 50 assessments and 14 credentials earned. I will say with that, every 3 assessments taken gives you a credential, but we did have some of the real life Rosie's participants that did not take all 3 assessments, they just didn't come. We did them on 2 separate days, so that they weren't there for 4 hours doing it, because we were pairing it with their training. So that's why the numbers don't line up specifically of having taken 3 assessments and then the credentials earned. But I will say, anybody that has come through and taken all 3 assessments for the National Career Readiness Credential has earned it, either the bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. So nobody has failed, which is great, because we've had a lot of youth taking it. It's been really the bread and butter of who's been coming in and doing it. So that's great that they're getting that to put on their resume.
Before you go to the next one, before I forget.
Yes.
Yesterday in public safety, the same request was made, is that when they gave us reports, there's, I think, emergency management. There are so many anagram, abbreviations that, and half of us were like, what? And by the time you're trying to figure it out, is there any way to put like a key when you have these kind of charts to put it so that we have an instant to understand what they mean?
Yes.
Because that's the same thing as we did yesterday. There's so many of them, they're like, oh, okay, this goes to what? So that would be appreciated. Thank you.
No problem. I can absolutely do that, or else we'd have 8 pages.
Exactly.
So the second sheet, this is our performance measures under WIOA from New York State. We did a couple weeks ago get our second quarter numbers. So what you'll find, there are complete definitions of the measures on here, but with the chart, I just wanted to bring it by. So we have with our performance measures for adults, then the dislocated workers, and the youth. For all 3 of those sources, we are measured on second quarter after their exit from working with us. Employment rate, also the 4th quarter employment rate, a median earnings of those that are employed, credential attainment. These are folks that are going through the scholarship process, and then the measurable skill gains. That measure is coming from those that are in the scholarship process and also with the on-the-job training. So we have to put in progress reports. So this is all based on staff data entry that's coming through. So the goal in the left-hand column, those are the negotiated goals with New York State. Those are based on what the feds give the state, and then the state negotiates them with each of the local areas. So York County has always been high performing, so they expect a lot from us. I'd like to move over to quarter 2, October through December goals. So the actual is where we're at right now. Raw data is showing you how many are counting positively out of our total with the denominator. Percentage of the goal, this is where we really look. We have to meet 80% of our goal for that measure. Why they don't just make it 100 and lower our goal, I don't know. It would make it much easier. But if you look down, we are meeting that 80% in every category except for the credential attainment of youth. And I went through all this at our workforce development board meeting last week as well. So we, in the same time that we got these measures, we had adjusted goals for the previous program year. That measure we also did not meet. And what it is mostly coming down to is the credential attainment for youth is split, well, it's combined, out-of-school youth and school youth. Out-of-school youth, those are typically, they're going through a scholarship program, they either complete successfully or not. And there's usually a couple that don't follow through. But the in-schoolers, there's a two-part to count positively on a credential attainment. They have to graduate high school, either GED or high school diploma, which that we pass with flying colors. We get these kids through that. But then they also have to immediately go into employment or into another training program. And under WIOA, if they are in-school youth, we cannot provide a scholarship for a training program. So we would have to try to get them into a training program, but not help them financially with it under WIOA. Or they have to go into employment and actually give us that information. That's the other piece of it, because we have to put the data in. Because in the time that we would get the information from Social Security, it might be 18 months out, and these measures are already given. So we discussed it with our Workforce Development Board, because if we fail this measure 3 years in a row, it could jeopardize funding. We're already at the end of the third quarter of the second year. We failed it 1 year, we had to reach 80%. We were at 72.2%. It was 1.5 kids. So 2 more, we would have had it. I will tell you this 58.5% of this, it is higher because we found a mistake in the data. There is one more, so it is higher than that. But moving forward, what we're looking at is not serving in-school youth under WIOA funding because it's hurting us in this aspect. But that's where having the investment from the county, we're not hurting the kids at all. We can still serve them, they can still get the same services, but then they're not counting negatively on our performance measures. The Workforce Development Board is on board with that, and in talking with other areas, there's a lot of local areas that don't serve their in-school youth at all with WIOA funding, and they don't have other funding, so they're just not serving in-school youth. Where we have that flexible funding that we can still help them, the kids know no different. It's just a funding source on our end. So I wanted to bring that forward to you. The last measure on this chart is the adult priority of service. 75% is the state goal. The WIOA requirement is actually 50.1%, so we are not very far off from that. And this is still not counting negatively against anybody. It's got a 3-year lapse in actually being counted in the official performance measures for areas. And since the state is behind, we are in year 2 of that. And it's a balance sometimes. Do we pass that measure or do we spend our money and pass all the other measures?
You said one of the issues is, and I can understand that, when kids just get out of high school and they have to immediately go into some kind of training, but we're not able to financially help them. Well, if they're not working, where are they going to get the money unless the parents give it to them? But is there no money that the county could help them out with that so that we could stay in though with this? If
That was one of the reasons we suggested splitting DET off from DSS and supplementing it with ARPA and county money.
Yep.
Rachel and I sat down, she told me about all these gaps in the federal rules and the funding that were preventing us from doing certain things. So this is a perfect example of the solution.
So let me back up on one more thing of this. What these are counting, the youth that are counting in this, when they exited high school and when they exited with us, we didn't have that money yet. Because this is all this data is pulling back because it's all pertaining to when they exit from our data system, which is 90 days after their last active time with us, which could be at any point. They could have come in, enrolled, had a month or 2 of services, and then they exit 3 months later, or they were with us for a year and a half and then stopped. And now 3 months later, the status is coming. So these measures are not affected by the county investment.
questions?
Yeah.
Greg?
The youth program, okay. I know that in the past when I was driving, I used to have a lot of students that worked in that program.
Mm-hmm.
They were always claiming how they, got their paycheck, a lot of them didn't go to school because they wanted to, get the money. And I noticed a lot of them used to work over at Mount Edna Cemetery, Front Street.
Yeah.
lately I haven't been seeing that many over there. Is there any, that in St. Mary's Cemetery?
So we have been branching out a lot to a lot more businesses at this point. When I first came on, there were limited options really for where to place the kids. I've got staff now that are going out to small businesses and getting them placed more and more appropriately for what the kids are actually looking to do.
Okay.
We also, Mount Etna, they've got to be over 18. And
Really? When does that go?
well, it's because there's placements from other programs there with adults with records for certain reasons.
Right.
So we can't have.
Okay, that
That is another.
You're seeing more of that over there than I see of anything
Yeah.
else.
Yes. So then we have to be careful what youth we're
Okay.
putting there as well.
Totally understood.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We do work a lot with Fulton Parks and Rec and the community basketball, which is good. But right now, actually, if anyone's interested or know any businesses interested, we are accepting worksite proposals for the summer youth employment program. And the applications for the youth should be out on our website within the next week. And if anyone would like to take me 14 and 15-year-olds, they can actually do a lot. I'll take 2. You want 2? Yeah. Okay. I got paperwork for you. We need them. It's hard to place a 14 and 15-year-olds, but.
Any other questions for Rachel? Thank you. Lots of information. Okay, promotion and tourism.
Yeah, our visitor guide has come out. We distributed, everything in the county except for Flat Sky, Sandy Creek area. We have the hideouts on the cover for the Marine Sanctuary. There's 2 pages on it. We've gotten pretty good feedback so far. Anything, you guys can contribute, just come down to us at the 3rd floor and we'll give you some. Top performing on Facebook and Instagram were the March Lunar Eclipse, followed by the Weekend Roundup. This weekend was the Yardley Marine Sanctuary syrup. So I went this weekend to Yardley, 30 miles of tubing. It was pretty good. They give you a small tour. Next is the National Outdoor Writers Association Conference. This year it's in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Next year in 2026, they're thinking about having it in Oswego. It's down to us and 2 other places. So they're coming in April 12th and 13th we're showing off the county as best we can to hopefully they have the conference here.
Not in April, though.
No, it'll be in August of next year.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Which convention?
National Writers Outdoor Association.
Riders, okay.
Yeah. Jen attended Admitted Students Day at SUNY Oswego. It was good for students to find out what to do and parents to do in Oswego besides the college, but San River Falls was a big event and something that we talked about doing. And lastly is it's April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
So we changed her Facebook profile picture to an old, Savannah has it on her shirt actually.
And on the tote bag. So this is our new logo.
Yeah. Calling it just for the day. But we're going old school and saying that we changed it to
Well,
that.
look at it.
That's the original county tourism logo
Yeah.
from the 1980s.
Actually,
Yeah, not bad.
profile picture. And it says that, it's new, but it's not.
It's my closet. All the time.
That's all.
But really nice.
Yes.
This is beautiful.
I can't wait to go through it all over again. I've seen it, this is
If
awesome.
you need more for distribution, just come down to, see us, we can give you a box or, take back to your own area.
So where are these distributed to?
Town halls, all the hotels. The only thing we haven't done is up in Pulaski, Sandy Creek area. That'll be done later this week, But we've done everywhere, Central Square, Phoenix, anywhere that has a small booth or, packets, we get to.
Where do they go outside of the county?
That is, distribution is on the throughways or anything, visitor centers, you can get, but just about 25,000 has gone out in New York State to be distributed along 81 and the throughway.
Well, I'm glad that they must have changed the rule, because I know it was that you only had, when you went to a throughway stop or any kind of rest stop, you only had advertisement for that area instead of what's down the road or the other side of the state.
In the Thousand Island region, yeah.
Yeah.
We can only distribute in that area, but now through other distributors, we can take a larger amount and go to different areas.
Okay, good, because I always thought that was stupid. Okay, they're stopping here, but they're only stopping to get a drink. They're
Yeah.
going someplace, but we've only got stuff that's right here. Austin?
I was just going to say, and maybe you already do it, but one of the other places that maybe makes sense, the hotels make a ton of sense, but like I'm thinking like wedding and event centers. So like, with the new Foundry being turned into an event center, all the other ones, because a lot of times with those, some of them are local, but a lot of them it's people coming from out of town, but they may not be staying overnight. So how are you going to catch them?
What we try to do with the event center here is she calls me, or us, shall I say, and we create bags or make up bags. So if it's anyone from 80 to 150 people coming in, we give them a hunting guide, a visitor guide, a pad, a pen, that sort of thing.
And I just wanted to say this is a beautiful document. Is there like an electronic version or an interactive version
On the
that exists?
website, there is. Visit Oswego County, you can just click it and see.
Excellent.
Didn't we win an award last year or the year before?
2 years ago for our fishing and hunting guide.
Yeah, that's great.
You put them in grocery stores too, don't you? I think I've seen them there.
Not so much. We can if you want,
I
yeah.
mean, it might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Some of your bigger ones, Whiteman's and stuff, they always have a rack of things.
Mhm.
If you build it, they will come. Greg?
The travel centers, like in Fulton, there's a visitor center, which isn't very well maintained as far as I'm concerned. Do we make sure that these get to these?
Yep.
Okay, because there used to be a committee that, used to, that traveled, committee that used to go around to different sites and we used to take care of those things. Is that committee still in existence or what? Because it used to, I mean, I forget who, we used to have so many different people on that committee that.
Maybe that was before websites and everything and people were going online.
Yeah, we were, well, we had websites. I'm not that old.
I'm not. I know the Morse code that we were taking things
the muck farmer who, Morris
Sabella.
Morris Sabella was big in it. North Country.
The Tourism Advisory Council, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that still actively meets, and those folks are still.
I don't see anything where it's,
Every month they meet.
Yeah, if you are interested, we're always looking for folks to attend those meetings.
There you go.
Be happy
because he used to go around a lot of different, well, that wasn't, that was a nice, committee to be on. They went around a lot of different, Phoenix, they'd meet in Pulaski and go to all the different locations. But they were in charge of, because I brought up about these not being out at different areas. They used to travel up from the southern tier up here, up on 81. There's always nice ones down there. And also down even further southern tier, there was a spot where there was some in there. Okay, so it's very good. You know, they're nice to have it. It's good to see it out there.
Yeah, it doesn't do us any good in boxes in the warehouse.
No.
Got to get them out.
Got a couple of quick things. We are looking, we got one purchase for this year. We're going to look to expand if it makes sense to probably 3 additional. They're roofed outdoor locations that these can be sit in. We want to kind of have them in the 4 corners of the county. We've understood that.
Legend Fields.
Legend Fields is going to be the first one. We've got 1,600 people a weekend coming from outside of our county that are coming directly there, standing right by this thing. So we're going to kind of use that as our trial, but we've also looked at putting one on the North Shore, one up in the Pulaski area, and probably one in Central, or Phoenix. Phoenix was the other one.
Yeah,
And
on the
we'll put
canal.
next one. But yes, the areas where we know that a lot of people are walking.
I just got thinking golf courses might be a great place for these too. I don't know if you deliver these
That's a great idea.
in the county.
Do we ever think of kiosks again? Remember,
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. We purchased one already.
We had one in storage, I thought,
That one was not,
in good
no,
condition.
no.
Yeah.
So we got a new one that was installed. B&G will be building it probably on site for us and upcoming. It's not huge. I don't want to make it sound like it's a large construction project, but probably anybody who's put something there from IKEA will understand.
You could put it like downtown to start with, or
Yeah, so we're gonna try one of the Legends Fields, and then we're gonna probably, like I said, there's 3 other locations we want to look at doing. So we want people where places where people are coming. So what I also want to mention, if I could, is that the city of Oswego contracts with a location right downtown that is the city's visitor center, and we have for the last year, and we're planning on doing it again this year, staffing that probably 3 to 4 days a week with tourism employees. And the thought would be they're going to serve that. They can access their computer and do their work there, but it also allows for them to kind of be that welcoming committee with everything coming out of the Marine Sanctuary. One of the things that we were hoping to show is that we've got data already. That's a strong pitch for why this is, the county that should be invested in by the federal government for our headquarters. So we
they
really
could
put
water
together.
their planters out front this year. It was a little scary.
We do also work with the retiree volunteer program as well, and I do know that they take very much pride in those flowers. And last year was.
I'm a flower fanatic. I was horrified. I was trying to dump drinks on them. They were dead on arrival.
We will mention that.
It was Adam's family, but
Well, awesome. This would be great handouts to you.
Yeah.
Also, these are
I'd love
beautiful.
to have some of these to have at our office that we keep alongside.
And on your little trips where you
Yep.
go places.
Pretty cool.
Okay, any other questions for Dan? Okay, planning and community development there.
Just a couple quick ones. We I want to thank G&G and Barton & Lejudas. Those are the grant firms that we contract with as a county. They have been working, I think, very diligently to help us get some grants in. I know there's one at Parks and Rec they put in. They worked really closely with Heather on a mobility one. And we just submitted yesterday a municipal infrastructure grant application for $1 million for the project we've been talking about, putting sewer lines in along County Route 3 from the city of Fulton to the Bristol Hill, the county facility. We've talked a lot about, I think, ask me if I haven't, but we've talked quite a bit about the benefits that project could provide to the county residents, the safety, and I think it's really a really great project. So we're hoping to find out. This is a $1 million application. The county gets one ask, and this was the one that ultimately we requested. There is partnership with a local developer who has committed to build 54 one-family owner-occupied homes, market rate, right on County Route 3 is the hope, assuming this all goes through. So there's a lot of really cool things going on here, and I think that this is the type of project that we've been talking about infrastructure needs in this county. So I'll come back to you and let you know if we get the grant application. Also, we're working with them to put together the additional funding needed for that project. It's about a $7 million project total. So we're working through that. Also, just a quick update on the SOCRIS project. That's the connector project. We, again, want to thank the different communities, City of Fulton, and some of the other ones who've offered to be partners with this project. And just give you an update. Talk to State DEC. They are very excited about this project. And so we'll keep you in the loop on that. Anyone who wants to know more about it, feel free to give me a shout. It is ongoing. That's about a $98 million project. We do anticipate that the funds will be available in the next couple of years for that project. And we're working with Barton & Lejudas to put together the updated documents the state needs in order to consider it. So the big deadline for that, I think, is May 31st. So we're really working pretty tight with that and get that done. We have brought on Mark Alvardo, who served in our infrastructure role, and he's been absolutely crucial in getting these projects forward. So I want to mention that as well. The other update is broadband. So I think I just want to kind of give everyone an update. This committee, we haven't really got a ton of updates. Anybody have any questions off the top on that? If not, I'll just give a real broad update. We have to have this project completed by the end of next year for funding purposes. And so we are scrambling. I want to give Mr. Turner, who's recently retired, and obviously Kyle in that office have done an incredible job staying on top of that. There are probably 5 meetings a week with the state, with different organizations to make sure this thing's moving forward. There's so many moving pieces, over 7,000 poles that they need to attach to, that we need, each pole needs to have an agreement in order to access it, to put our lines on it. So as you can imagine, a ton of moving parts, but I wanted to kind of give that update. If anybody has any questions on the broadband project. Okay, moving right along. And the last thing is our countywide comprehensive plan update is moving along. We contracted with EDR, the firm that did Onondaga County and Portland County's projects. We are in the process of finalizing the steering committee, and we plan on having a bi-weekly meeting with the county staff, planning staff, to move that forward, as well as a monthly meeting with steering committees. Those are public members interested in being part of them as well. But those are the conversations with the boots on the ground that we try to get about 3 or 4 members from each of the quadrants of the county, so we have a real good understanding of each area in the county as we put together our plan. And the only last thing is I wanted to mention is we also were awarded, I think it was on last month's agenda, the $750,000 grant. I'm sorry, back up, $50,000 grant to study the manufactured homes needs. This last week, a number of my staff did tours around the county, visiting anywhere where there are 3 or more manufactured homes.
That's a lot of them.
As you can imagine, I mean, anyone who's seen it in this county, there are a number of those. And so one of the hopes that we're trying to do is get a good understanding of what that inventory looks like. The follow-up grant will be an application to do something about it. But this initial grant is to cover the time it takes to put together a needs assessment, so to speak, throughout our county. And I've talked to a number of the town supervisors who are very excited about this. We are also working closely with the health department to make sure that we understand the needs.
Any comments, questions? All done.
And the last one is I got a $750,000 grant that we are actively moving forward with. We've gone to contract with the state, and that is for connecting to sewer lines as well as septic system upgrades for community members. This is a CDBG funded grant, so it's 51% of bills we work with need to be low to moderate income. So we are working through an application.
But the other 49 isn't.
That's the requirements of the federal government. Yes. So we'll keep an eye out for that. We'll get, once those applications go out, we'll do a real public information push on that, but we'll get you the application information for your members.
Spend the money quick, Tim. New York Times just said they just laid off the first round of 10,000 federal health workers. They found out they didn't have a job when their badge didn't work.
We're working through it.
Okay, last but not least, mobility management. Looks like she's got quite a thing for us.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta go.
Take one before you leave. Okay.
There, great.
Oh, wow.
I'm not trying to address
It
it.
has every project we worked on last year.
You did a great job.
I will take one.
We got 2.
Thank you.
I'll show you one. Good. You gave it to me to get back?
I'd take it. Get it up.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to email you the proposal?
No, you're good.
Because we're just gonna need some information
I
about the
just don't
hours.
want to get around. Okay, got it. Think about it. You're a jokester today. You don't take Ragula, right? Don't forget to get your candy either.
I'll take it.
You're not.
Find this because we want to explain to people what mobility management is, but also show you guys, you know, what all the resources are. Some of these programs and flyers are other organizations' information, and some are flyers that we created because there wasn't any information available. Like this MES flyer is something that we made to help people get a hold of MES. You know, there's flyers in here like Uber and Lyft, we made that. The Place Stopper shopper guides. There's just a lot of information in here, but it encompasses everything from what we put on the table for children to get them interested in transit to what we put on there for seniors. We've given a couple of these binders out to facilities like OTOs, housing services, family centers, so they have a master binder at their facility, but we sent one of these up to New York State DOT and they loved it. The reason why they've been pushing for materials like this is because the state has been researching regional level mobility management, which would be very interesting for that to develop into. So they're investigating like what training materials they would need to have for future mobility managers for such a new position. So we put this together for them and sent it to them and said, this is what we do. I hope this helps with training. So if you guys have questions on that, let me know, but it literally has every single thing that we created and have worked on since the beginning of the project.
Have you thought about sending a copy of this to all the town and village halls?
We are absolutely going to do that. We purchased manila folders that have the 3-prong inside, so they're smaller. We're just trying to see if we can fit all of this in there. But we do have these nicer binders which we can get out of, so it's just they're a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
We did hear back from Centro, finally.
Yes, finally.
There's like 60 pages of paperwork that I'm filling out right now. I do have to go through the same background check as the state police. So I will be contacted by the police department for like a whole interview. I have to get character references, notarization, like there's a whole bunch of stuff. I have to go through a credit check. There's a whole bunch of
Just to be on the Centro board.
yeah, so because it's yeah, so I'm working on that. I should have that paperwork done by the end of this week. We're getting there. We've been working with our grant writers. I love them. They probably don't love me. We are, I think I mentioned last time, we're in the final round for Innovative Mobility Grant. We applied for $300,000. I did have a call with DOT last week and they did tell me to expect a contract for it. So hopefully I'll learn about that soon. There was a Northern Border Regional Commission Catalyst grant that came out. We had about a week and a half to submit like our initial response. It's a 2-round grant process. I didn't really think anything was going to stick with it, but turns out they want to learn more. So we will be applying for the second round of that grant. That was $250,000 that we applied for. We do have Ride the Route coming up. So this is our 3rd year doing the Ride the Route class. We have one in Pulaski and one in Bolton. We've trained 44 people over the past 2 years with this class. So it's been going very well. And we partner with the Rural Health Network on the curriculum for this class. So if you haven't taken it, please come take it. We do a ride along. It's wonderful.
Well, Heather, the people that end up taking that class, they end up being regular users in the end, don't they?
Yeah, so we teach them safety with the bus. We teach them how to flag stop buses, how to pull the yellow cord to stop the bus, what the difference is between the bus stop signs, how to read the bus schedules, guided ride along. We give them a couple bus passes to get them started, and then we send them on their way. We have 2 types of people that take the class. We've had people themselves that want to learn how to ride the bus, and then we've had like caseworkers and people that work at organizations that want to help the people that they serve understand the system. We just recently got our little over $125,000 reimbursement for mobility management in 2023. So we are getting very caught up with all of the money that we spent for our department. I appreciate, I know I missed the beginning of this meeting because I was lugging 100 pounds of folders with me. But I want to let you know, like, mobility management is a grant funded position. We know this. However, the same funding that provides the funding for our rural transit system is the same funding stream that supports mobility management. So mobility management is not going away unless they completely pull all of our transportation funding. If that were to ever happen through Grant 5311, I would immediately apply for either Grant 5310 or 5339, which is 2 other 5311 grants that we are eligible for that can support both mobility management and public transit. And if those ever fail, if B and C fail, we can go after DOH funding and make a formal request to the state to help us. But I just want you guys to know that there are A, B, and C options right now with mobility management, and I have backup plans to the backup plans if we don't get that money. But yeah, we just want to, I have a huge focus this year. My goal this year is to apply for every grant that we possibly can and to do a huge push on training. So that's why you guys are going to see more stuff like this. But if you want one, or if you have a facility in mind that you think could benefit, please let me know and we'll get one sent out to them.
Excellent, as always. I mean, it's very comprehensive. It's, any question anybody has about transportation, they can find the answer in here. I know we discussed the Amish, and so I'm trying to find, it's not that easy because I don't know how well they're gonna be able to use it because they can't call. That's the whole cut.
So I might have a solution for that. So.
Of course you will.
Cups and strings, cups and strings.
I went and talked, I went down to our bus garage and I explained the situation. Because they've worked with the Amish before in the past, and I want to know what they've done in the past with them. So I posed to them the issue that we're having and that we want to expand services to them. So it's not been done before, but I want to talk to DOT to see if there's a way to do a hybrid between a demand response and a fixed route. We used to do something similar with the Oswego Industries routes. If you guys remember, there used to be OPT 1 through 9. Years ago, and those were kind of like a hybrid between open to the public fixed routes and demand response. So if there's a way where we can do that, where Amish are flag stopping, we know that they flag stop or they wait on this corner every week or they're there all the time, then I'm thinking, well, maybe we can do one of these like hybrid type of routes where that bus will be available, driving by can pick up flagged riders, but demand response drop them off where they need to go. So it's not, we have rules to follow with deviation in our fixed route. We can't deviate off of a certain amount, but if we do a demand response, we can take them further.
Yeah, my concern has been is that they're going to a bus stop and then they travel and come back, but the problem is they can't let the other people know to come get them because they don't have a car. So these people are walking 7, 8, 9 miles to get back home. And so they're on the road walking. And so I was like, gee, if we could have another little bit closer to where they don't have to walk quite as far. I mean,
we can add an official bus stop wherever you guys would like. It's not a difficult ask for us to adjust the schedule. Yes, we have to replant, we have to remarket. But if it's something that's going to benefit, that's exactly what Kristen and I, and we're here to do that.
Yeah.
We want to improve the system and we want to make it better.
Yeah. I've been trying to observe and talk to some of them because they do come by us all the time. And they stop over to the CJ's, which is right across the street from us. There's always a carriage, tied up there. And I'm just wondering if, I know you said something about the bus drivers need to stop someplace for lunch. It would be a perfect place. So if we can get enough, because Amish are there all the time coming back and forth. And I'm just wondering if that might be a good hub. But
you're right, because the bus route doesn't have a very good break for that driver, which is why, there's a couple stops not getting any ridership. We want to reevaluate it, but that's a good point that you have.
Yeah.
But also, we don't really go to Phoenix too much. If there's area to Phoenix, that's viable with that route because it services that area.
Yeah, well, I was figuring if they could pick them up in Pennville and take them right to Phoenix, and then they could get on Central, because that's what a lot of them do. So they ride that, but they know the route and what time. So,
I got to mail stuff to them. I think if somebody can give me an address, if you guys have any connections, I'd love to just write them a letter. I won't type it out. I'll pull out a pen and take off and write them, and we'll see what we get.
Yeah, they're very particular about that.
If I could just put one last, forgot to mention, April is Fair Housing Month. We are required as part of our grant programs to have a fair housing plan. And so one of our big event each year is our coloring contest from our previous years. So keep an eye out. We will send probably something out to you to disperse in your community. We usually work with the school directly.
Austin?
And I just want to make a mention here that we were I don't know how I forgot this one, didn't have it on my list, but we helped and assisted and are happy to see that the Village of Pulaski received $10 million DRI award winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Whoops. So we're working, I'm going to be the co-chair for that local planning committee with Mayor Teig from the Village of Pulaski, and they are in the process right now. They submitted 15 other names from people from locally in the village, as well as some experts at the county to sit on that. And so we're just waiting for that sort of the state to do their background review, and then that committee will be announced. And that process will pretty much take place from about May through late October, November, to develop the boundary, identify all the projects that will get funding, and then submit that to the state. So that'll be for probably next 6 months that'll take place. But it's great to see. I think that the Village of Pulaski was the first village in Oswego County to be awarded a grant of that size. So it's a pretty big accomplishment for them. And I will say that being also involved in sort of the scoring part of that is that they had identified about $55 million of projects, which for a village of that size is pretty impressive. And that's why they received $10 million versus potentially $4.5 million, is because they were able to really match and drive that private investment up. So want to give you that heads up as well.
That's a huge area with the Salmon River and everything. I mean, it's one of our big pulls for tourism. Any other questions? Any other business that wants to be approached? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. And we're done. Thank you, everybody. As always, very informative.